News Radio 700 WLW.
Weekend passed. A new week has started.
That's right. Already full of news.
Never full of news.
That's right. In this case, federal prosecutors have opened up an investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and I guess this has to do with the $2.5 billion renovation to the central bank headquarters there in Washington, D.C., and Powell thinks it's an intimidation tactic by Trump. So who knows what's going on with this?
Well, here to discuss with us is our good friend Steve Cotton. He is the president of Cotton Wealth Management Associates. He is a financial strategist, and his resume is long as my arm. Steve, welcome back to the program.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Hello, Cincinnati.
So, Steve, you heard what Brock was saying there. What is the end game here, do you suppose, with Trump?
Well, I think it's interesting. The dynamics are interesting in that Chairman Powell is trying to position this subpoena to a federal grand jury as an intimidation by Trump, who's frustrated because Powell has not reduced interest rates as fast as Trump thinks it's justified. Biden inflation was running about 9%. The latest numbers that came out, I think, yesterday or today, put inflation at 2.6 to 2.8. That's quite a reduction, and yet the Fed has been relatively slow. Trump is correct. The Fed has been and Powell in particular, has been very slow in lowering interest rates. But I would suggest to your listeners take a step back and look at the broader issue. The issue really is, why have construction costs on the Federal Reserve's renovation gone from an estimate of $1.9 billion to now over $2.5 billion? Trump toured the building, the construction site, several months ago with Powell. Trump is a construction expert, and Trump said recently that he thinks the cost could escalate to as much as $4 billion. And if anybody knows construction, it's Donald Trump. And I think this issue has other layers to it. And I think that they smell some fraud going on.
So do you feel, in your opinion, Steve, that this is something that Trump is doing this because he wants interest rates lowered, which and rightfully so. He believes that'll help people, be able to sell their home, buy a new home, make things more affordable in that direction. But do you think this has to do with that, or it is Trump tours a place and goes, God, this thing, doesn't look like it should cost this much. And you're right. He knows what he's talking about. What do you think is the case?
Well, I think before Trump did his tour, this was all about pressuring Powell to lower interest rates more quickly, because every time we lower interest rates, it reduces the amount of federal debt service that we have to pay on our national debt. So the president's got an issue there of fiscal stewardship. But I think when he toured that construction site and he looked into the details of what they were doing and how they were doing it, he was probably appalled and asked that that further be investigated. And I'll bet you they've uncovered something that makes people think that Powell's testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last year about the reasons for the cost overrun, I bet they're suspecting that he misstated or misrepresented the truth. And I'll bet you there's something here, because Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna from Florida is the one that made the criminal referral to the Justice Department because of Powell's testimony. And the members of Congress don't do that lightly. And for the DOJ to have actually issued a federal subpoena to Powell to testify before a grand jury, that's serious stuff. I think that's more than politics. I think the Trump administration is sensing either gross incompetence or worse.
So when it comes to doing a project like renovating the central bank headquarters, what is the process there? Does that have to go through Congress? Is there a vote, or is Jerome Powell, is he the one in control of this? Like who does the buck stop with, I guess?
Well, the Federal Board of Governors makes those decisions, and the Fed is funding this out of their revenues from bank fees and things like that. So it's not tax dollars as in the classical sense, which is the case of the fraud in Minnesota with the Somali things. But no, this is cash flow within the Fed. But there are 4 or 5 major factors at play here: historical regulations, environmental considerations, the fact that they are digging a cellar into the water table because Washington is at sea level. There are a lot of issues that can make the cost rise, but for them to have made a criminal referral tells me there may be something more here than meets the eye.
We're talking to Steve Cotton. And Steve, who could actually benefit from these cost overruns? I'm just curious as to who could possibly line their pockets.
Well, the contractors.
Okay, all right.
I would not suggest that anybody was getting a kickback.
Okay.
That would be very common in other kind of situations, but this is such a high-profile project that I'm probably thinking it's closer to gross mismanagement than it is fraud. But when you make a criminal referral to the Department of Justice from Congress, you've got to have some evidence that there's something not right. And for these cost overruns to have escalated to now $2.5 billion, Trump is building his banquet hall for $2 or $3 100 million. Can you imagine? And this is a relatively small location. It's 2 buildings. But Trump's comment was, gosh, this has to be the most expensive real estate project in the entire world. And he's got a point.
And Trump's renovations, by the way, are all privately funded.
Yes.
And just aside from this, what do you think interest rates are going to come down? Right, yeah. I mean, what is it right now? Is it 5.87? What is? I'm blanking on it right now. Around 6%. Do you think it's going to come down?
Oh yes, I think the Fed is on a trajectory. For a long time, they said, well, we can't lower interest rates until we see what the impact of the tariff policy is. The tariff policy has been mixed in terms of its impact on inflation. There are some tariffs that have had absolutely no impact on price inflation. Then there are other tariffs, like he's put a 50% tariff on imported copper. Well, we can't dig enough copper in the United States right now to fill the 50% that we have to import. So that's going to be inflationary. That ripples through, home buyers, home builders that put copper in homes, copper wire, etc. But so there are some tariffs that are going to be inflationary, but it's really been a mixed report. And I've been surprised that it hasn't been more inflationary as a general policy than it has been. But I'll give you the example with tariffs. If I go to the liquor store and I want to buy my favorite scotch from Scotland and it's $98 a bottle, and I don't want to pay that, well, I'll just switch to a good Kentucky bourbon or something that's half the price. So buyers have the choice of switching to products and not paying tariffs and not paying higher taxes, import duties, if they want to. But there are some things like copper where there isn't an alternative and the higher prices have to be paid. So I think inflation is going to continue to come down. The Fed is now split. There's a group on the Fed that thinks they ought to continue to go slow. There's a group on the Fed Board of Governors that think we need to get after it, lower interest rates, because inflation has come way, way down. I think they're going to continue to look at this cautiously, but this kind of thing does muddy the water, and it introduces a political element into the Fed's decision making that is probably not helpful to Trump.
All right, with that, Steve Cotton, we will let you go, buddy. We'll see how this all shakes out. Any idea on a time frame on this? Is this going to take a while, or should it be happening in a fairly quick fashion?
Well, the Federal Board of Governors will meet again probably in March, and we'll relook at the interest rate question. As far as this referral to the DOJ and federal grand jury, that may take some time. That's why I would urge everybody to just withhold judgment until you know more about why these cost overruns are so out of control, because there's a little smoke there and there might very well be fire.
All right. With that, Steve, we will let you go, buddy. Always our pleasure. Thanks so much.
Glad to be with you.